Hi everyone, Morgan here. So today I want to talk about the top lessons that I've learned being off grid for the past couple years. So we got off grid in 2019, and while we currently are on the grid right now, which I'm not pleased with, but we also have our backup system. So it's not like, we're ever going to be without, our energy needs but first of all, I loved being able to control my own energy. And not just that, but being able to control where our water came from and how we got our water as well. While it is nice to just kind of be able to turn on a faucet and, just be able to use water kind of willy-nilly, the fact is, I learned a lot from our off-grid living, and I'm actually taking those lessons from the off-grid on to the on-grid. And if we ever are without power again, I feel like we're just going to be so much more prepared than than before. Like, I thought I was really prepared for power outages, before, I had everything. I was really prepared, even before, living off grid. But now that I've lived off grid for a couple of years, I feel like it's just not a big deal anymore, like we've done without of so many things that I'm just like, whatever, it's not even a big deal anymore. So that's our lesson number one. We can do without a lot of things. And, so we are able to power anything we wanted. A big myth about off-grid living is that, you can't have any of your conveniences. This is just incorrect. I still had my stand mixer, that I used all the time. We still had a fridge and a freezer. We were able to power, TVs and our laptops, and we had internet. We had all this stuff. So it wasn't like, we were just without all this stuff just because we were off grid. Off grid can mean that, you're off the grid, the literal grid, and then you control your own energy and water and all that stuff. And that's exactly what we did. So but that very first lesson is, there were several things that we couldn't use. I couldn't use my dehydrator. I couldn't use, which I'm using now. There was no way we'd ever be able to get a freeze dryer, that kind of thing. But on the grid, you're able to do that, but you're paying for it. Either way, you're kind of paying for it. You're either going to be maintaining it, getting the power from the sun or getting the power from the wind or the hydro or however you choose. And you're not necessarily paying for it, but you're investing in all that equipment. But, when you're, on the grid, you're paying for the luxury of having it available to you at the flip of a button and having almost unlimited. But when it's not available to you, such as in power outages or anything like that, you have to learn how to deal with it. And I feel like that we've just kind of learned how to deal with it, because there were actually a few times in which we were completely without power for a couple times just because we had to switch out an inverter or something like that. So, we didn't have a lot of sun, but we used our generator, that kind of thing. So the next lesson I learned is really being able to use water efficiently. So we hauled our own water. The entire time we were off grid, we were never on a well. And we hauled our own water. Boy, you learn real fast the importance of water and how you use water if you don't have immediate access to just turn on that faucet, right? And just have it flow from the faucet. If you don't have that, you really learn the value of water. Okay. And we sure learned the value of water. That's for sure. We were never on a well, so we always hauled it. And so now, I feel really confident in the fact that, we can haul water, but we still store water. Of course, we did that while we were off grid as well. We always stored water as well as hauled it. But, it's a twofold of how are you going to use water efficiently when you don't have that water flowing from the faucet. You're going to be taking different showers. You're going to be washing your hands differently. You're going to be brushing your teeth differently. You're going to be washing dishes differently. You're going to be doing all these things, all the things that you do on an everyday basis. You're going to be doing it just a little bit differently. You might be cooking differently. You might be doing things a little bit differently when you don't have such access to water. The other thing that we learned being off grid is being able to handle temperature fluctuations. So extreme heat. We were able to handle extreme heat all the way to extreme cold. of various ways. So we did have a wood stove when we were in Alaska, and that was a huge eye opener to us about how to use a wood stove, cutting wood, cutting down our own trees, all that stuff. Big eye openers there. And so, about how to produce our own heat. And then, of course, we have 2 buddy heaters that we always have. And then the of dealing with the extreme heat, we never had air conditioning. Never had air conditioning. And so, we either created a little cooler or we just did without. We would stay in the shade. We would learn how to deal with the heat without any AC. And I think that actually was a really good lesson for us. Yes, it was hot, but we got through it. We drank water, we stayed in the shade, we got in the water, we went swimming. We did these things to stay cool, and big eye openers for us. And it was really good lessons for us that we can get through this. We can get through the extreme cold, we can get through the extreme heat, just as long as we have, the proper necessities and the proper tools at our disposal. And so that's things that we are, working towards. Even being on grid, we still have contingencies for whenever the power goes out. And whether you lived off grid or not, these are things that you should be thinking about anyway. Now, we've lived through them, we've experienced them, and we've experienced all these things of maybe having to do without certain things, or one of the things that we did off grid living, because we control our own energy, was doing things during peak times. Like when we were in Arizona, we would do laundry during peak times. Like, we had a washer, and we would do laundry during peak times. We would run our microwave during peak times, where we had excess energy, where the batteries were totally charged and we had that excess energy to kind of not waste, but to use, because that sun was coming in and our batteries are 100%. So we had that excess energy to use. And so, we would do things at that peak time of excess energy, so that we weren't doing them at night and using the batteries that were stored, the energy that was stored in that batteries. So that was all really good lessons for us too, just different ways of doing things. And really the biggest lesson that we learned off grid, adapting, overcoming, and finding alternative ways of doing things. You really, when you're off grid, and especially when you're trying to build a homestead, I'm not even gonna lie, sometimes you kind of hemorrhage money, okay? And your time and all that. And so, especially if you're building everything up from scratch, so you have to be creative. How am I gonna do this? Should I just cook with the sun, right? So I didn't have a dehydrator, so I made a solar dehydrator. We had a solar oven that we used outside. You could make a little mud oven outside and cook out there. You could make a little fire pit and cook over the fire, and all these things that you can do alternatively, and of course we can practice all these skills now, but being off grid, it really taught me that I am capable of so much more. I'm capable of adapting. We're capable of living through extreme conditions. We are capable human beings. And, learning those skills and learning how to adapt. And it really taught me so much, and I'm really grateful. And I think that honestly, through that experience, I've become a better prepared person. And the next time that we go off grid, the next time that we have an off grid homestead, we're going to be way better prepared, way better off than we were through this 2-year kind of experiment of being off-grid homestead in the extreme heat and the extreme cold. So right now we are on grid, but this isn't the end for us. We will get on our off-grid homestead again. Where? Not really sure, but we're going to be figuring it out. And right now we're just going to be going with the flow of life and our journey and staying prepared throughout it all. Thank you all so much for watching Conquer Tomorrow by Preparing Today. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.